I've decided the best way to really showcase this engine is to go through it in pieces. I have pretty much all the parts designed from the original prints, and I've got most of them mounted in this assembly. Since this isn't going to be built, drawings aren't going to be made from each individual part, there doesn't need to be a bill of materials. Many assemblies are done up as multi-body parts, and it's still, there's about 1,500 components on the screen right now. And so we're going to go through it in pieces. The overall layout of this engine is it's got a boiler and cab that's free floating. It's pinned to two basically engines, a front and rear engine with a pin right here. At the front and back. See a good view to show you that. There really isn't one, but there's a pivot in there at the front and back. And then to give it some traction, they put the weight of the tenders, which are usually a car behind the engine that's not part of it. In this case, there's a water tender in front, and a combination water and coal tender. And the engine was designed to start out as an oil burner with the conversion to coal being a possibility. And so the front and rear drive units are pretty much identical. There are some left-handed, right-handed differences. But I've got this divided into the boiler unit, front tender, rear tender, and we're going to take another closer look at this front tender. Fewer components on screen so I can have the sharp edges turned on, which makes the parts stand out a little better. Now this is a solid tender body, and I have created an assembly that I haven't had a chance to swap out where it's actually done with plates so that it contains the interior geometry, the baffles, the openings where the water would be. But I haven't put that in yet. And today I want to take an in-depth look at just this headlight. And I mentioned some assemblies being created as multi-body parts. This is a single part file with 22 different bodies in it. There are 4 main castings, the front door, the main housing, and 2 side doors. There's also 4 6 pins, 3 of these assemblies, which is a essentially a threaded bolt with a cross pin and a nut. The way this would work is you'd unthread this nut. It can't come off, you've got a head on there, but enough that it can open and this shaft pivots out on that axis, and then you can open the door. And similarly, each side door has that same apparatus. The front is openable to service the glass and service the bulb, the headlight. These side windows would have had the engine number. This was largely modeled after a 409, so they would have had a 409 in there. There would have been, I think, 401 through 410, or 400 through 410. There were 10 of these engines built. And so it opens to service the glass, change the numbers if need be, change the bulb. And then there's a vent so that you don't have condensation building up inside of it, which would be detrimental to the electrical connections and the bulbs themselves. And there are 2 of these, one on the front and one on the back. The way the engine's made, it can run forward just as well as running backwards. In fact, you could reverse for the front for the back, and it wouldn't make a lot of difference. The running in what we would consider reverse would just put the engineer closer to what would be used as the front. when run in the standard configuration of this being the front, the driver is just further back. So it could be ran just as easily in either direction. So there's a headlight on both ends and classification lights on both ends. They could be changed to tell you oriented to whichever direction the you see. In fact, they have a filter in there, green or red, depending on which way you're running the engine. So you could open that up and change those filters accordingly.